Today, I'm going to talk to you about a very important concept in workers' compensation, and that is average weekly wage. Your average weekly wage is how your off work benefits are determined, and also how the money that you get for your injury, what is called permanent partial disability, is eventually calculated. So, how do you determine what is your average weekly wage under the law? Well, straightforwardly, you look at the year preceding your accident. That's 52 weeks. You take the total amount that you earned during that year and divide it by 52. So if during that year you didn't work full time for a while or took some time off, that will lower your average weekly wage. It does not include things like vacation and sick time. Those will not affect your average weekly wage. Some other important concepts that affect your average weekly wage. One is overtime. Now, most of the time, overtime will not go into your average weekly wage. It will go into your average weekly wage if overtime hours are regular and scheduled. As an example, if you work 8 hours a day, Monday through Saturday, every week, and you're on the schedule every week, Monday through Saturday, that 8 hours for Saturday will count towards your average weekly wage. On the other hand, if you work here and there when overtime is needed, you need to stay a little bit later to get the work done, and it changes week to week, month to month, that will not go into the calculation for your average weekly wage. It's also important to know that it doesn't go in at time and a half, but at straight time. Another important concept in determining your average weekly wage is what we call concurrent employment. So if you have another job at the same time and you're making income at that job, that can go into the calculation for your average weekly wage, whether or not you're missing time from that second job. What's important to determine whether your concurrent employment is going to go into your average weekly wage is if your employer was aware of your second job. Now, this happens often because there's scheduling issues, things like that. So oftentimes your employer will be aware of that second job, and that second job will go into the calculation for your average weekly wage. And it is important because, again, the higher your average weekly wage, the more you're going to be paid for the time you're missing from work, and also eventually the more you're going to get for the injury itself, or what we call partial permanent disability.